Hello, and welcome to our webinar today, Simplify and Modernize Your Finance Technology. This presentation created specifically for tribal governments. Today, our presentation will be given by experts in technology with hands-on experience in these fields, Matt Borkowski from Arctic IT and James Fall from Sparkrock. Before we begin, we'd like to remind you there's a tribal accounting flyer in the handouts for you to download. As always, if you have a question, please feel free via the questions box to enter your questions so we can address them at the end of the presentation. With that, I'll turn the presentation over to Matt Borkowski.
All right, well, thank you, Joanne, and pleasure to be here with you, everyone, today. You're joined with James Fall from Sparkrock, so we can just talk to you about just the latest and greatest in web-based technology for tribal governments that is really helping folks achieve that digital transformation, get away from those manual processes, and really take a step forward in modernized technology to help manage your governments and provide better services to your tribal members. So during today's presentation, just give a brief introduction to Arctic IT and Sparkrock in general, talk about the modernization of IT and really how that's making an impact, especially over the last year and a half or so in the current environment in which we live and work on a day-to-day basis. And then we'll really dive into the solution itself, taking a look at the Microsoft Dynamics 365 platform on which Sparkrock is built and how that's purpose-built for government and tribal government entities. And then James is going to give us a great sneak peek of the functionality itself and leave a little time for a Q&A at the end. So again, thank you for spending some time this morning or afternoon with us. We look forward to diving in. But regardless of the technology that you implement, as important, if not more important than picking the right technology, is picking the right partner to help you make best use of that technology. Time and time again, we've gone in to help people make better use of the technology where they didn't have the right partner in place and immediately started making benefits. So we want to talk to you about not only technology today, but why Arctic IT is the right partner for you. And specifically in that regard, we have deep roots or roots, depending upon where you live, in the tribal community. We've got more than 15 years of working with community engagement for Alaska Native and tribal, lower 48 tribal organizations. And we've currently worked with over 72 tribal entities across the United States. We specialize in technology for tribal governments and casinos. I personally have been implementing Microsoft Dynamics solutions in and with tribal governments and casinos for over 12 years, and it's been a great joy in my career. And we are proud to be 100% Native owned as a subsidiary of the Doyan Alaska Native Corporation. We are proud of that heritage, and we're proud to be able to use some of that shared heritage and knowledge with our deep technology experience to help our customers make the best use of technology out there to better their organizations and the services that they can provide to their citizens. And with that, we're Microsoft Gold partners. We've really built our practice on Microsoft technology, where as we like to say, we've drank a lot of the Microsoft Kool-Aid over the years. We continue to do so as we see the great technology that Microsoft makes available for our customers. And so with that, we are industry experts. We have Microsoft Dynamics MVPs on our team, which means there's only a handful of those in the world. And we are proud to have some at Arctic IT, which means that Microsoft even hires us to train their own employees, as we are more certified and more deeply experienced at being able to train on a lot of those solutions that Microsoft is themselves. And we've got extensive ERP experience from our roots as an accounting firm, as the IT department of accounting firm, and growing now to being over 100 consultants across the country, developing, implementing, and training folks on ERP experience. We have those experts at Arctic IT, and we're proud again of our Alaska Native heritage and being a federally recognized ANC 8A. And all of that, we bring that experience and the expertise to bear on the Microsoft platform. We're Microsoft, as the world's largest software company, creating that solid foundation with versatile, productive, dependable solutions, giving each a financial application more than the application itself, but the true power of the platform, which we'll talk about, just integrated into your everyday life at work. And being able to take that a step further and really bring in the market expertise of Sparkrock that has continued to build on that foundation that Microsoft offers to provide just unique to provide software to meet those unique needs of public sector, government, and tribal organizations. And they've been focused on those markets for well over a decade. We're very proud to be a Microsoft and a Sparkrock partner together, along with our industry expertise, to bring the best of technology using the best methodology and the best experience to deliver that for our customers. And I'm looking into the landscape overall of IT modernization. We talk with folks on a daily basis about priorities that they have in achieving modernization to really just improve their business processes and improve access to technology on a daily basis. And what we're hearing more and more is the reasons that folks are looking to get away from that legacy technology, that legacy software, oftentimes comes back and starts with the idea of just having the various teams across your organization being siloed. At the tribal government level, we're talking about health and human services, education, housing, and then your tribal administration and all that, typically being silo teams, oftentimes geographically as well, in different buildings and all that, and maybe different areas of your community. But then also just siloed applications where you're all dealing with and working with those same tribal members, and your goals are the same of providing the best level of service that you can for those members. But then you're dealing with that duplicate data in different and those different systems. You have that same member and address maybe in 8 different places throughout your organization, and that leads to a lot of manual processes of having to share data and communicate amongst the departments and amongst the programs for changes in addresses, and really giving you that insufficient tracking. More and more we hear about tribal council asking, how much, what is it costing us to provide service to this family or to that family? What are the outcomes of the funds and the grants that we are giving, on an individual household basis? And when you have that data in 10 different applications, stored in 7 different formats across the organization with no real way of connecting that just provides an insufficient tracking and an inability to provide that valuable information to tribal elders and council members that need that in order to make the best decisions and how to most improve what's happening in your tribe. And that all brings security issues into play because you're trying to find ways to share that data in and amongst that using legacy technology, maybe having to connect from home, to things that are stored at your office just because you cannot access that safely right now in the current pandemic or the weather situations we're having. All of that is just holding tribal organizations back on a daily basis and just looking for a better way to do it. And that really starts with comparing a legacy system to what's now becoming more and more available in a cloud-based solution. For those of you that aren't familiar with the difference, an on-premise solution would be one that you're using technology that's installed typically on site at your tribal government offices, where you can go and physically put your hand on the server where that data is stored or where the software is installed and running, and that brings into all kinds of vulnerabilities to site-related issues, whether that's cybersecurity attacks. Sadly, we're seeing more and more tribal governments being targeted for cyber attacks and hearing about the devastation caused when you're hit with ransomware. And then all of your backups, all of your data, everything that is connected in there being compromised and not having access to that, not being able to provide services or be able to feel comfortable about where that financial data, where that member data has gone after a cyber attack. Whether that's, and then bringing into the other vulnerability of business continuity, where if you have folks that aren't working at the office, where because of COVID or other pandemics that we might be dealing with, they can't come in, and now you have to start rotating access to keep people safe, but being able to continue to do your jobs and looking at it in a secure way that typically has to happen via remote desktop or VPN connectivity, which is costly to support, brings in its own inherent data security risks, and then you being able to be protected against that with very complicated disaster recovery models. More and more IT organizations are looking for a better way of doing things, and that is where the cloud systems come into play. And the cloud system, for those of you that aren't familiar, really just means where that data and the services and software that you're using are someplace else, meaning they're on someone else's in someone else's data center. In this case, most commonly you hear about AWS and Microsoft Azure being those cloud systems. And what that really gives you is business continuity. When we think about business continuity, we've always thought about, well, what happens if there's a fire? What happens if there's other, natural disaster type things where we lose all power to our organization? How do we have access to it? How are we going to continue to work and do that? But in the past year, business continuity has taken on a new meaning. How can you effectively enable a remote workforce when you weren't planning on a remote workforce to be able to not only continue to do their jobs, but to do it well, to have secure access to what they need? And a cloud-based system just provides all that inherently in it. Having that essential data backup and recovery automated as part of that cloud system, where you can rest assured you don't have to worry about that. And again, being able to empower a remote workforce. All of this, of course, requires an efficient internet connectivity, which has been a barrier for a lot of tribes that are in rural location where the land hasn't had the infrastructure necessary to be able to access that. But it's that those infrastructure barriers are being reduced time and time again with a lot of the tribal organizations out there. Cloud systems are becoming more and more available and usable for our customers, which is great. And with that, Microsoft, understanding that as they were enabling or needing to move from a legacy-based way of running an application to a modern cloud-based solution, that is where they created the Microsoft Dynamics 365 platform. You've heard about Dynamics 365, lovingly oftentimes just called D365 out there. It is Microsoft's brand name for the cloud applications, for the cloud business applications that kind of unify a lot of those different applications, which have typically been on a separate platform that requires detailed integration work or manual processes in multiple applications. Now brings that all together into one platform, called Dynamics 365. So there you'll have things like finance and supply chain management, sales, marketing, customer service, what we call our tribal platforms solutions that are Dynamics 365 solutions that we've developed specific to the tribal governments and tribal organizations. We're bringing all that together in one platform so you can start connecting those dots. You can have your family and social services connected with education, connected with courts, connected with housing, connected with finance, so that those that are authorized can have secure and confidential access to what they need, enabling just a much better way of interfacing and working with your tribal citizens to ensure that that you're providing the highest level of service that you can, and also being able to protect against fraud, being able to protect against your situations like that decrease your ability to service your members, all while bringing that data together in a common data model so that you can start answering those tough questions across the organization for what it's costing and what are the outcomes to be able to service a family, a household, your individual members. As more and more you're getting those tribal dashboards, if you will, that more and more elders and councils are asking for, all built on top of the best-in-class cloud security. But as I said earlier, it's more than just the applications itself. That looking at the platform as a whole, the Microsoft has created what they call the Power Platform. These are all connected tools with Dynamics 365 to give you very powerful dashboards with Power BI. Being able to connect and create workflows that go outside of your applications. You're being able to connect email and your tribal member services and your financial system all within one powerful workflow using Power Automate that connects multiple systems and multiple data points all together in one workflow management solution like Power Automate, and then being able to create mobile apps and extended functionality without being a developer with the Power App tools that allows you to create request forms or other things that folks maybe need to fill out that don't exist natively in the applications, connected to those applications to really enable that on the go or in the office very easily using those Power App technology. All showcasing that beyond just looking at the individual application, ensuring that as your needs grow, as requests for data and reports grow, being able to connect with other systems and maybe add additional functionality, making sure that you're on a platform that enables you to do that so you're not locked in to a platform or application that is very static bringing in more and more manual processes over the years then as you're not able to adapt your technology. The Power Platform part of Microsoft Dynamics really future-proofs your organization to be able to adapt your technology as your needs adapt, so you're not stuck with those manual processes. And again, all built on top of the Azure Cloud Platform. We can't overlook the fact that it is a security-first platform. Architect IT is a security-first minded organization because we know that no matter what technology we help our customers use, if it is not secure, if they cannot rest assured that their data is protected, their data is safe, that the government can't just subpoena their data, that the outside entities aren't able to get in and see their data without permission, right? And being protected against the ever-changing landscape of cyber attacks and ransomware out there. Azure provides that at its base and fully weaves to the Dynamics 365 data sets and technology features. And then always being on the latest and greatest so that as new functionality comes out, it can be automatically applied. You're not having to go through large, huge capital expenditures just to upgrade your infrastructure, to upgrade your financial system, because it's all inherent and part of that ongoing cloud service, giving you the unlimited storage and computing, so you have access to all levels of performance that you need, but you only have to pay for what you need. So often with your legacy type applications where you're needing to roll out servers, you have to go out and have major capital expenditures for new servers, and you're only utilizing a quarter of that because you know at some point you might need it, but then you never do need all of that. Then you have to replace that and upgrade it again in just a few years. So you're paying typically for a lot more than what you actually need with an on-premise infrastructure. Where you're looking at a cloud platform like Azure, you're only paying for the users that you need. So you're always making the best and most efficient use of your finances. And then we talked about how the platform is completely integrated through that Power Platform, through the common data service, and where you still need to connect to other external systems, it's got full featured integration tools to allow you to do that. So when you do have those separate, maybe those casino-based solutions and other things, that you can connect those to really reduce those other manual processes. And then all fully integrated with the most commonly used collaboration platform out there of Office 365, so that you have a single sign-on when you log in the morning to use your computer. You now have access to email, to Dynamics 365. It knows what your access and license to use, what data you can see, regardless of the solution that you're in. So when you're in Outlook and you get an email from a vendor, right in Outlook, you can see your vendor balance. You don't have to log into the other system to take a look at that. It's fully connected, giving you really good insights into that full collaboration platform on the Microsoft Cloud. And with that, we're just excited that Sparkrock 365 is part of Dynamics 365 to take the availability and functionality of Dynamics 365 10 steps forward to make it just custom fit for our tribal customers. Because at its core, one of Dynamics 365 are their financial and ERP solutions. And Business Central is the latest ERP solution that Microsoft has available. It's Dynamics 365 Business Central, and it creates a lot of great financial base functionality for being able to really help you and optimize the way that you do your financials, the way that you run your reports, tracking your inventory and distributions and analytics. But at its core, there's a number of missing components to really help a nonprofit, government, tribal entity be able to truly capture and track all that they need. And that's where Sparkrock 365 comes in. It's that fund accounting and procurement functionality with HR and payroll availability completely built on top of Dynamics 365 Business Central to take the best of what Microsoft has available and make it even better and more usable, easier and quicker for our tribal government organizations. So with that, I'm again just very glad to have James Faw from Sparkrock with us to help you get a sneak peek of everything that Sparkrock 365 brings to help you make the best use of that as a tribal organization. So James, thanks for joining us today. I will pass the presentation over to you and look forward to taking a sneak peek at Sparkrock 365.
All right, thanks so much, Matt. Yeah, so we're looking forward to showing you a little bit more about the application and how it can look like in real life for your organizations. So in terms of how we take a look at this, I'd like to do that by considering the application and what life can be like with a true cloud and SaaS application through the lens of three key themes. And these three key themes are really where we see organizations like yours, like tribal governments, and how you can maximize efficiencies. So first of all, I'd like to consider these three themes. The first one is empowering efficiencies, so how you can do that. The second one is accountability and budget, how you can bring that to your organization. And the third is compliance with grant or funder reporting, any reporting either internally or externally. So kind of want to look at the solution through those three lenses. So if we start with the first theme of empowering efficiencies, one of the fundamental things in our experience that really helps organizations become more efficient is to really eliminate the multiple systems that are together. And if you consider how many systems it takes to run your core operations in finance, if you're thinking about financial operations with an accounting system, perhaps there's some procurement and there may be either a paper process or in some cases a third-party solution for requisitions. And then you might have some add-ons for reporting purposes. And then there might be an HR solution, and then maybe another payroll solution, and then many spreadsheets to manage all of that, and then maybe some staffing and scheduling and time clocking and all of those things. So pretty quickly you can see how to run those business operations, you might end up with anywhere between 5 and 10 different applications and multiple spreadsheets to manage all of that. And so what Sparkrock brings to the table is a single fully integrated solution that allows you to replace all of those systems, and along with it, all of the risks that goes along with the risk of integrating all of those pieces and the data risk of having those pieces tell you different answers to the same questions when they're not fully integrated. So we'll speak on that, and hopefully you'll see that throughout today. But for example, if we look at, again, this is the overall footprint of what Sparkrock 365 can do for you. If we look at project and grant accounting, for example, let's say there's a new grant or new funding source that you've set up, or a new project that you have within the organization. So our system allows you to track that pre-award or pre-activation of that particular project. So you can set it up and track it, and it's not cluttering up your general ledger, if that particular grant never comes to fruition. But once it's awarded, then it automatically, once you change the status, it'll create the segments or the dimensions in the general ledger for tracking those costs. And then immediately you could, for example, start with maybe requisition management, entering requisitions to procure items for that particular project or grant. And that'll flow into purchasing, flow into commitments and encumbrances, back into the general ledger and the actual to budget reporting. So all of those pieces are connected. Or maybe it might be tied into setting up a new position. You might create a new position that's going to work on that project or deliver whatever it is the mandate of the particular grant or funding sources. So you can set those up, or perhaps you're going to activate maybe timesheets by that particular grant, or employee scheduling. You'll start scheduling individuals to work on activities related to those, and those flow into payroll and then flow back into the general ledger with both direct and indirect cost allocations based on those timesheets or scheduling, or even just salary assignments or percentage of someone's salary being assigned to that. So all of those pieces are connected together. On top of that, you can define workflows. And so those workflows, maybe for approval for that grant, can be tied to the position that's been hired for it. So instead of having a finance workflow that's pointing to a specific individual, you can have a finance workflow that's pointing to a position, and then incumbents in that position, even if there's changeover, automatically receive the approvals for it. So all of these pieces are working together and in tandem to deliver a high level of efficiency to your organization. And again, organizations don't need to implement all of this at once. You can start with some pieces and sort of grow into the platform over time. But again, the more that you can have all things in one place, backed up in the cloud, that can really help with reducing the risk of less integration. So again, with this theme of empowering efficiency, I want to move into talking about some of the other things that Matt touched on. specifically in terms of business continuity. And business continuity can really apply to multiple ways. So this is a true cloud and SaaS application stored in the Microsoft cloud, so the most secure business cloud available. So it means that your internal IT department doesn't have to manage all of these things. So I'll go into the application right now just so you can see here. So it's a true cloud and SaaS application, meaning it receives updates as quickly as possible. So when they're released by Microsoft, Microsoft updates the platform, and the next time the user logs in, they're getting those updates. So updates are delivered much more the way that we receive updates on our mobile phones today than perhaps how you've experienced upgrading your accounting systems, where it's sort of like a mini project that only happens once every couple of years or even longer in some cases. And as Matt mentioned, there's lots of risks today as the cybersecurity environment becomes more challenging and risky for organizations. Having something that's only upgraded every 2, 3, 4, 5 years is very, very risky for an organization. So this application is delivered in terms of those efficiencies where your team doesn't need to manage that. You've always got the latest and greatest. It's also delivered within the Office 365 or the Microsoft framework. So you can see here's Dynamics 365, but also it's within the same place where I would log in as a user to see my Outlook or go to SharePoint or Teams or Power BI or Word or Excel, any of those. I can access this application in that same place. And then the way that I navigate through the application, so if I want to go through budgeting, journals, all of those sorts of things, is done in a way that is very similar to other Microsoft applications. So in terms of empowering efficiencies, our experience is that users, as they're ramping up on the solution, if they've had any exposure to any Microsoft application, even Excel and Word or Outlook, they can apply a lot of the knowledge in terms of navigation and getting around and basic principles for the interface for the system. They can apply that knowledge and ramp up very quickly in the solution. So again, that's another advantage of empowering efficiencies. The other thing in terms of empowering efficiencies is this solution is built from the ground up to tell the user about the health of your organization or that user's organization at a glance. So I'm logging in here, and it's telling me right away how many overdue purchase documents. So I've got 15 overdue purchase documents here, and I can click on those and drill down to see the specific entries that make that up. So you can see all of the specific invoices, the vendor name, exactly what those overdue invoices are, and understand that at a glance. The same thing with cash account balances. So I can drill down on those and see, again, this is a proxy for cash in the bank. What's the total of my cash account balances simply by clicking on that. Also with incoming documents, we have access to an OCR cloud service. That's a service that reads invoices and partially or completely enters them for your users. And so I can see, so if you use a scan to email feature, the system can actually help your accounts payable team enter invoices and really help them shift away from a sort of a just data entry model to a more analytical model where they're entering corrections or helping the organization be more proactive. And then we can see some additional information, purchase documents due today, any benefits for discounts if I pay early, or purchase discounts, anything, approvals that are pending, any requests to approve, I can see that all here. I can drill down and identify, okay, oh, there's some requisitions here. I can open up those documents, open the record, approve or reject them right from here. And the same thing with pending user tasks. Now, as we keep scrolling down, then I can see my favorite accounts. So these are accounts that I may want to monitor. And here I pinned my program-related accounts, and I can also identify additional charts and even change which charts I'd like to work with. Maybe it's the cash cycle chart, and I'd like to see sort of those sorts of things, the comparison of revenue versus expenses and things like that. There's cash flow forecasting, my favorite vendors. And again, all of this is really helping the user at a glance get a sense of the health of the organization as I log right in here. And then one of the other areas of empowering efficiencies is really how easy it is to find information. So our focus is on sort of financial functions today. So I'm using financial examples here. If I go to my chart of accounts and I'd like to analyze the data here a little bit better, I'm just going to change this view to show all my accounts here. I'm going to easily search through, and I'd like to go and look for program-related accounts. And right from here, I can see program expenses, salary, supplies, travel, and I can see budget, commitments, encumbrances, net change, and a budget available. So without having to run a budget report, I can easily just at a glance see exactly how it's doing. So my budget available is 1.6 million. I had 1.8 million, and you can see all the other consumptions against that budget. So there's $1.6 million available here. And if this is, I'm not sure exactly what this is. Why is there 112,000 already charged to this particular account? I can actually click on these values, drill down further to see exactly what makes up those values. So again, I can see additional information as I click on these invoices here, see the source, any documents that are attached to it. I can hide that. I can open up a filter pane. So if I want to zero in further, let's say I'd like to, maybe filter on a department code. I'm going to zero in on just my admin department. I can just apply that filter, and the total at the bottom changes to show the total of just the admin department entries. So I can zero in further. If I'd like to do a materiality check, I can actually do an amount filter here, and I'm going to filter on amounts that are greater than let's say $5,000 here. Simply apply that, and you can see it's reduced the amount to show what that is. If I want to sort ascending or descending, I can easily see which invoice is the largest invoice in this group of invoices here, and I can use a find entries feature to actually find all related transactions to this. So maybe I want to show the posted purchase invoice voucher based on this the results here. I can see that this is an accounts payable transaction, and I can see here an invoice image. Maybe I want to open up that invoice, and I can see an image of the invoice, related to this particular document. So, our tools can allow your organization to go completely paperless if you need to, if you'd like to. And again, as Matt mentioned, even going completely digital is something that may have seemed like a nice to have from a business continuity recently, but is more like a need to have in terms of allowing folks to completely function from anywhere, from any device that they need to. So again, it's very easy for me to sort of drill down to this detail and really work with it. Something else that really helps empower efficiency for users in our solution is really this idea of blurring the lines between which applications that you're working with. So if I want to work with, if I want to start working in the application here and I've applied these filters, but if I want to quickly pivot to working in Excel, I can use this edit in Excel feature, and that actually downloads these entries into Excel. And instead of other systems where I have to pick a file name and write to it and kind of maybe pick a bunch of settings, it really does that transfer very seamlessly to me as a user. And it does it based on whatever columns I have shown. So, I can modify the columns on my screen there, and whatever I have shown on my screen is what gets pushed out to Excel. And so if I'm working here and I want to, even use my auto filters even further, and I want to zero in on maybe a specific entity code, well, I can select that I'm just going to look at entity EO1 here, and I can filter that data further as I'm using Excel. And this Excel integration is actually bi-directional, so I can push data out to Excel, or the system allows me in some cases, whenever data is editable in the application itself. So for example, it's not a posted ledger where I'm not able to change the data, but if it's maybe a journal entry, or maybe it's I'm editing a list of vendors or something like that, I can actually edit the data in Excel and publish the changes back into the application without giving it a file name, without saving something. I just use the edit in Excel feature here. It creates the template for me. I make the changes and push it back. So again, that's also useful when for example, if I'm doing a journal entry, I can start it in the system, push it out to Excel, and then publish it back into the system. So again, a lot of these features that are very, very helpful in terms of allowing users to work in the system and blurring the lines between working in the solution or in different Microsoft Office applications. So one of those other areas of efficiency. So I'm going to quickly change my view here and then show you another area of the solution in terms of being able to work with that integration, and that is using Microsoft Outlook. So that's another area of that deep integration with the application with Microsoft Outlook. So the integration with Microsoft Outlook exists in many different ways. So there's some really interesting ways. So all notifications for approval requests go through Outlook, but there's also the ability to look up data. So for example, this is a notification email here. So it's showing me that I've got purchase request has been granted all approvals. It's giving me an update. So if I need it to approve and I'm only a casual user of the system, I don't need to worry about what's happening or remembering to log into the system. I can simply do that, and I can just click on the link in the system and see that from there. Now, this particular email here, this is my demo email account, and I've associated my work email account with a particular vendor called First Up Consultants. So when I click on that particular vendor on this email here, you can see you can open a new add-in that shows me information right from here. And this is showing me how I can have information that's presented inside my email that is live data from my ERP system. So in this case, I can see there are 60 other orders, and I can actually drill down on those orders to see what those purchase orders are from this particular vendor, or 50 different receipts, or I can see a new quote or a new list here, or see some additional information, the balance for this particular vendor, drill down into see that balance, or I can create a new note or something like that. So I'm able to actually work primarily in my Outlook, but I'm seeing information. If it's related to a customer or a vendor, I can see information right inside my email without having left my email for that particular customer or email. So again, that's another part of that theme of empowering efficiencies, and some of the things that our customers report back to us that are really game changers in terms of their ability to work the most efficiently possible. So continuing on that theme, I want to go back to a role center, and I've got a pre-set up role center for an accounts payable user. So part of that, the ability to become more efficient is really by starting with a role center that is the most efficient for you. So there's about 30 different role centers in the system. There's probably about 10 that are used by most users. So that's an accounting manager, AP user, purchasing, accounts receivable, a grant administrator, HR, payroll, scheduling and training administrator. Those are examples of some of the role centers. And so those are dashboards and home pages, if you would, that are optimized for specific users. But each user can also tailor that. So if I'm working in here and I'd like to change something here, I can actually go in here and I can use a feature to modify what it is. I can use a design feature to modify what it is that I'm seeing here. So if I want to remove some of these boxes that I don't use, so let's say I'm not worried about vendor certifications that are expired, I can remove those, or I can remove something, vendor certifications that are expiring within a week, or approve claims, or whatever it is. I can move these charts around, or look at my job queues and hide those if they were I can show those if they were hidden. And make those kinds of changes to the pages. It's very, very easy for users to modify any fields that show up on anything. So if you have a vendor, let's say a vendor list or vendor card, and you want to modify the pages that are there, then I can easily modify those, modify the columns that are shown here. Simply click on a plus here, pick fields that are here, and select what it is that I want to show here, change. So it's very, very easy, just like that field chooser that you might have in Excel to see that. Just move this here and close this for a second. The other thing that I wanted to show is really what the user experience is from an efficiency and really empowering efficiency, as well as helping with business continuity, is really showing a user how you can work in any device in anywhere. So if you had to quickly switch to working from home or something like that, your workforce can simply use any device that they have. They can connect in and access the application based on policies that your IT department manages. So I can see here, this is what the tablet interface looks like. And again, if I want to look at a list of vendors, I can see what the list of my vendors look like. I can even look at them in sort of tall tiles with images, or even sort of a shorter tile here if you have images, photos of your vendors uploaded, or employees, or whatever it is that the list is. In this case, it's vendors. I can see it sort of in any one of these ways. And again, if I'm working in a mobile, I can see that list of vendors from a mobile perspective, or I can be working and I can identify, what are all the items that I need to approve, or anything that's expiring. Things like that are available to me right from here by clicking on each one of these. So again, that's another part of this theme of empowering efficiency. So I'm going to go back to my PowerPoint here, and hopefully you're seeing, in terms of this theme of empowering efficiency, where users can work anywhere, anytime, on any device. Those users can also, even depending on their role, they role specifically understand what matters most at a glance. So instead of having to run a bunch of reports or look for anomalies and lengthy reports, they're simply looking at a dashboard that's alerting them to things that they need to notice. They can drill down into details. So you saw that from the general ledger, but that's available on any starting point throughout the system. You can drill down to see what's making up those values. Start with a role center that's made for you, and then integrate easily with other solutions across the Microsoft ecosystem. And hopefully you're seeing that the solution is very feature rich in terms of having what you need as an organization. So I want to move into our second theme, and that's really this theme of accountability and budget. And so something else that we see that really makes a big difference in the lives of our customers is to really expand the horizon, or the boundaries of what your ERP system, or who touches your ERP system within the organization. And so expand access in real time, so that your users who are accountable for a narrow slice of the budget, have a way of accessing that information and being able to see what it is that they need to see at a glance. And so in order to do that, in our solution, we needed to solve multiple problems. One is a user interface that's appropriate for those users to see. In that case, those are often end users, a budget manager. So it could be someone responsible for the IT department's budget, or somebody responsible for the HR department's budget, or somebody responsible for some other specific budget, or maybe just a specific grant that they have access to, or a specific program. So we need to provide access to those users in a simple way that doesn't confuse them or overwhelm them with options. And in many cases, we can really eliminate a lot of the inefficiencies that are happening. So for our customers, before we've rolled out this kind of functionality, in most cases, what's happening if you're a budget manager in your life is that you have to wait for the finance department in your organization to close the books. And if they're really on top of things, that could be, that's likely 2 weeks into the next month, and that's even optimistic in many cases. So, and then after those 2 weeks, the finance department spends a lot of time, often involving blood, sweat, and tears, in generating reports that go out of the system. In many cases, what comes out of their financial systems out of the box is not something that's that legible or understandable by those budget managers. They often have to filter it, so I only get access to my data. And so by the time I get that report emailed to me, it might already be 3 weeks out of date. And so we end up with users that are handed information that's significantly out of date, especially at critical times in your fiscal year, and they're expected to make important business decisions based on that data. So I want to talk to you a little bit about how we can really help eliminate that entire painful cycle by rolling out access to something called a department manager role center. So this is a role center that's designed specifically for those kinds of users. So everything that I see in here, I can see, but it's filtered based on my security. So again, in the scenario that I described where those reports are going out, we see where users end up in two scenarios. One where they're sort of they like to make decisions proactively, and another where they end up making decisions reactively. So for those that are proactive and they want to look at reports, finance can define some very simple views. So I can see views, for example, by all of the programs that I have access to. And these views are real time. So by real time, it means that they're available to me at any time. I don't have to wait for month end, and it required zero effort from finance other than setting up the view in the way that they want me to see the information and assigning it to me once when my user first got set up. And then when I look at the information, I'm looking at each program that I have access to, and I can see the budget, the commitments, encumbrance, net change, and I can even drill down to the data. But everything I see here is filtered to show me only information that I have access to see. So it's done in a secure and a responsible way that's not going to confuse the end users. And if they're wondering why there's $2 million in this education program, and I want to see what that is, well, I can actually see that there's this maintenance service purchase order for $2 million that's out there, and I may want to understand why that contract has been set up if I don't recognize that that particular amount. So again, it's very transparent, and we're working the way that that users need. The other way is a reactive way of operating, and we can help users that for whatever reason that they're not able to be as proactive as ideally they could be. If the nature of their work is more reactive or they're not able to do that, we can help them as well. And so typically that manifests by when they're entering certain types of transactions. So in this case, I'm going to show you entering a requisition. And I can go and I can enter a requisition in the system. And let's say I'm procuring some PPE for my department. Actually, I can select those values and I can put in some basic information here about it. And I can identify even where I'm going to charge it to. And in this case, it's only giving me options that I'm allowed to. So I can only charge it to a program or department or function or whatever it is in the general ledger that I have access to. So it reduces the opportunity for me to charge it to something that doesn't make sense or somebody else's department. And when I go to submit this, I can run a verify process, and it checks everything, and it says, hey, this is going to push you into an over budget condition. Do you want to submit it anyway? So we can set up business rules in the system to identify whether an over budget condition requires an approval or is just a warning, or it's a hard stop where you can't even get approval. It's just not possible to do. So we can set up each one of those. And either way, it's always transparent to the end user. So again, in a traditional scenario, that user is having to enter, even if they're entering a manual requisition, if they're trying to determine if there's sufficient budget, they're having to swivel chair over to that report that they got that potentially is 3 weeks out of date already, trying to line up on that report to the line that they're entering, approving on the requisition to see what's going on. And if they get all that right, then maybe they're looking at whatever they've approved, in the last 3 weeks since the report was generated, and adding that to determine if they have enough budget. So again, we're eliminating all of those inefficiencies and making it completely transparent and seamless to the end user. So you can see I'm not a very proactive budget manager. I'm $10,000 over budget, so available amount after this request is going to be $10,831 if I proceed with it. And if I wanted to know why, well, I had no budget to begin with. I've got 3,200 in commitments, which are other requisitions, and 7,300 in encumbrances, which are other purchase orders. So I was 10,624 over budget before this particular transaction. And I can drill down on these values if I want to understand what they are. So if I drill down on those encumbrances, I can see exactly what orders and invoices are making up those amounts, and it's very transparent to the end user, and we're eliminating all that risk and inefficiency. So again, this is theme number 2 in terms of helping you understand some of the benefits of having a solution that can really help your organization be proactive. So I'm going to go back to my accounting manager role center here where I have my data as we move into sort of theme 3. So hopefully that gave you a little bit of a perspective on what a day in the life of a budget manager could look like when they have access to real-time information, and frankly, by inference, what the day in the life of a finance user. So the final theme that I want to talk about, and just wrap up quickly here, so I can give Matt a few minutes to wrap up at the end, is really talking about compliance with grant or project tracking and reporting. And this can be done in a variety of different ways. So we have built-in projects that allow you to track your grants in a highly efficient way. So we can look at those grants, we can track tasks and deliverables, even if the fiscal year funding doesn't align with your fiscal year. So I can see at a glance the entire project life, current project year, any tasks or deliverables that I have, any contacts, all of the contacts, funding sources. It's fully integrated to budget as to allow you to do cash flow planning with that. So again, we can provide you with deep insight. And in many cases, a lot of this is stored in either paper documents or in someone's Outlook calendar with all the reminders. We can consolidate that all in one place and do a dramatic reduction in the risk that your organization has. But also one of the tremendous benefits that we can offer is create custom dashboards for your organization. So this is an example of projects or grants that are going on within a particular organization. We can create dashboards using another tool that's part of that Microsoft integration that Matt was mentioning earlier, with a tool called Power BI, and it's one of those Power App solutions that are within the Microsoft Office framework. And so, for example, if I want to present my projects, on a map where I can actually see exactly where those are, I can see those. Or when I want to analyze data from a funder perspective and identify, where's revenue coming in from different types of funding, different funding programs. If I want to look at timelines for different projects across the organization, look at the breakdown of different projects in different buckets, even budget and revenue, which ones are the largest, so the largest fish here are the larger in terms of revenue, or analyzing expenditures, or even the allocation of employees to specific budgets and counts with FTEs. So I can create some really visually stunning and helpful and insightful dashboards that can be even customized by your own team if you want to further customize them to something specific that you want to see. And I can share these dashboards through Teams or SharePoint with other users. And it really can be a game changer in terms of allowing organizations to have deep insight into what's going on within their organization, and to really revolutionize your compliance with grant reporting. So hopefully this allows you some insight into some of the tools that are available, and how, what life can look like for an organization that wants to really digitally transform a lot of these functions and bring them into a centrally fully integrated ERP solution that talks well and plays well with others in terms of a Microsoft ecosystem. All right. Matt, just wanted to pass things back to you.
Yes, terrific. Thank you. All right. So again, we appreciate the opportunity to be with you today and to discuss how Sparkrock 365, Arctic IT, and the Microsoft Dynamics 365 platform really is the best of the modern available solutions for tribal governments right now. And again, more than just thinking about what your organization needs right now, making sure that as you're looking at technology, you're thinking about where might we need to be in 4 years, in 5 years, or even in just 6 months with the drastically changing landscape that we've had over the last year, ensuring that we've got the ability to adapt and to future-proof your organization with a platform like Dynamics 365. And going beyond the technology that you pick, ensuring that you're picking the right partner to help you make the best of that technology with the experience and expertise in the organization. And you will find unmatched levels of that in the tribal community with Arctic IT. And that Sparkrock 365 truly is the right choice to bring the combination of the Dynamics 365 platform and the business specific needs for tribal government that Sparkrock 365 brings. And want to invite you to continue joining us in our tribal technology webinars with next week, excuse me, on the 25th. Yes, learning about how to better way to serve and manage your members with the Dynamics 365 tribal platform solution. And then the week after that, taking another step forward with Sparkrock 365 and seeing the human capital management, HR and payroll technology that we can bring for tribal governments. So with that, again, I thank you for the time with us today and would like to take a few minutes as we wrap up here to see if there are any questions that we can answer.
Great. Thank you, Matt. James, wonderful presentation. All right, we've got our first question. How long does the implementation take?
That's a great question. The right answer for that is one I don't like to say, but that's to say it depends. It really truly does depend on the breadth of the modules and technology that you need. A quicker, more focused financial implementation, we've done them as quick as 2 months. Usually the 3 to 6 months is a more palatable timeline for that organizational change to take place while making the best implementation we can for the solution. It can be done more quickly than that, as I mentioned. And then with the HR and payroll platform options with Sparkrock, as we talked about, if you're doing a complete switch with all the modules, you're probably looking in that 6 to 9 month timeline for a complete implementation and training. Again, taking into effect the organizational change management that needs to happen at that same time frame.
Okay. Another question, do we need both licenses for Sparkrock and Business Central?
That's a great question, and the answer is no. The Sparkrock license incorporates the Business Central license as well. So you do get access to both with the one license.
Okay, great. Any more questions? Give a few seconds here. Okay, well, with that, we've got about a couple minutes, so that's great. We finished on time.
Yes, thank you all for joining us today. It's been a pleasure. I love to talk about technology and just the way that it is making true positive impacts in tribal organizations. So we'd love a chance to talk with you further if you want to see how we can make it best fit for you all.
Thank you, everybody, for joining us today. Have a wonderful day.
All right, bye now.
Thanks.
Thank you.